So over the past few years, I've come up with a system that works really well as far as packing all the gear into my truck. So I'll give you a little tour as far as what I found that works really well for me. First and foremost, I have a thermoelectric cooler right here. This is the $100 variety from Walmart. It's made by Coleman. It's designed to plug into like a cigarette lighter adapter in a car. But what I found is I can run it to a solar panel. So I have a solar panel up on the roof of my car. There's the wire there. And it's able to run it. Right now it's probably about like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and there's enough power from the sun to spin both fans inside and outside and keep the film nice and cool. I have nice easy access to it, and also it is really nice because it gives me a nice flat platform right here, so I can set up like a camp stove on here. I got plenty of height where I don't have to worry about the heat. And also I can put my film changing bag right here. It's a nice height so I can work in there, especially under the shade of the rear hatch. And also got speakers and lights there, which is pretty nice. I got 7 gallons of water right here. So I got about a week's worth of water. I can carry a little more on the inside if I want to. And then this case right here, which is a car case from Tenba. This works really well because I can basically put all my food in here. There's my camp stove right there, so this serves as my pantry. And then I got a case back here from Tamarack that I had back when I did some lighting stuff. This was the case I had from that. And I've got some dividers in there where I have clothes on one side and then miscellaneous gear on the other. I can also put a little bit of camera gear in there if I want. And then this top compartment here is good for batteries and cables and other stuff that I'll need. One of the things that's really cool about the 4Runner, it's got the sliding tray right here where I can push everything into the back, and then if I need access to it, rather than reaching over the rear bumper, you just slide it out like that. So that has worked out very well. The second row is seats. I have those folded down. I put down a couple moving blankets, and that's where I can just toss in both backpacks that I have. The really big Gregory backpack, and then also the smaller f-stop gear backpack. That can go in the middle as well as sleeping bags and stuff like that. And I find that putting the moving blankets down works really well because I don't care if stuff's dirty, sandy, muddy. I can just toss it in there. It's really easy to clean it out. But this is a setup that works really well. Should also mention that up on the roof I have a Yakima rack that also has another 8 gallons of fuel up there. So I don't have to worry about, driving back to a gas station somewhere and filling up. When I have just a little more range with me, which is nice. But this is a setup that's worked really well for me, and kind of fine-tuned it over the years.
I was fortunate enough to have the dunes to myself for the past 3 days, but now it's time for a change of scenery. It's tough for me to say goodbye to a location, but I knew this wouldn't be my last visit. There's a lot of potential here, but with a storm on the way, I knew my time would be better spent elsewhere in the park. Sand dunes exist in this valley for a reason, and I've learned over the years that large format and wind do not mix well. As I drove my truck down the dusty road, I couldn't help but glance over my shoulder and grab one last view of the dunes as they slipped out of view. It's a long drive to my next location, but there's something about driving through the desert that helps clear the mind and give a greater appreciation for the scale of this vast national park. You can drive for an hour, and it feels like you've made very little progress. Of the 3 scenes I've photographed thus far, I'm satisfied with one of the photos, but I know deep down that it could be even better in future years if I get the conditions just right. This is one of the reasons why I love returning to a location again and again. I become familiar with the subject and learn to recognize when conditions are at their best. During the month of January, the weather is very mild in Death Valley, and the park often sees wonderful clouds from winter storms passing through the region. During the winter of 2010 and 2011, I experienced El Nino conditions in the park. There's a certain novelty to rain in the desert, but the experience gets old very fast. Heavy rain results in road closures, and the ground becomes thick with gooey mud. It's great for photography up to a certain point, but it gets old. Luckily, the storm on the way isn't going to be of that magnitude. Perhaps a small amount of rain will fall, but the clouds and wind are certain.
So I'm here at Dante's View,
and this is an area that I have never before photographed, and thought on this trip kind of change things up a little bit and see if I could find a cool shot up here. I think large format could do quite well here from the standpoint of so much detail, so much texture, and I think would help kind of capture the vast scale of the place. But there is one really big challenge about shooting up here in large format, and that is, you might even hear it on the mic right now a little bit, but there's a lot of wind up here. And right now it's quite calm, but I've been up here in the past when it was very windy. And so to deal with that, I did weight down my tripod there, so hopefully it won't go flying over the edge. But also I set it up right up against this big rock here, and that way it'll act as a bit of a windbreak, and me from the other side would act as a windbreak from the other side. And the slightest amount of wind will shake the camera, and if I'm doing a long exposure, that would totally kill the shot. I said exposure. We're gonna go with that. Another thing too is that I'm gonna be shooting north, at least mostly north, and at sunrise, which is my main goal for this photo, I'm gonna definitely need to have a grad filter in there for shooting Velvia 50, and there's a storm rolling in, so hopefully by sunrise there should be some cool clouds up in the sky. And in a perfect scenario, I'd like to have the mountains light up with clouds above it, but who knows if that's gonna happen. I'll go with anything, but I'll leave the camera here overnight. But I'll need to use a grad filter for the sun coming up in the morning. But a lot of times I don't like to leave the grad filter on the camera overnight. I like to take those with me. But I have a technique for setting them, which is, I go ahead and set the filter, in the afternoon like right now. And then to see where it's placed, I'll put my finger right up against there and see which wrinkle on my finger the top of the filter comes to. And that way in the morning I can come in, drop the filter in there, and then place it at the same wrinkle on the finger, and then I have the exact same setup. Another thing too with large format is that the filters are not, the transitions in the filters aren't quite as particular, because everything's gonna be a very soft filter, so I don't have to have the exact precision, but this technique has worked very well for me. We've got about 2 hours till sunset, and maybe make some exposures then lock the camera down overnight and come back in the morning.
If you love this content and want to help support my journey, you can do so by subscribing to my YouTube channel, telling a friend, or sending a contribution of just $24 a year via PayPal. I depend on the generous support of people like you to produce this ad-free content. Thanks in advance for your support.
Camera rolling.